So one of the biggest challenges we faced in India when we moved into online teaching, almost, just on the go, um, particularly because I teach film and I teach journalism. And the film students were completely taken by surprise because they were just getting ready for their practical components where they started filming their end semester projects. And then we said, well, we're going to teach you all the courses that don't have only all the theory courses. And they were not really prepared for that because film students are notorious for not really wanting to do any theory. They just want to get their hands on the cameras and the lights and start working. And so that was one of the first challenges we had. And the second was that we were in the middle of a Citizenship Act protest. And so the government was shutting down internet access in several parts of the country where they felt, the protesters were talking to each other using social media. And so this double challenge and also lockdown, so none of us could move out, and so we had to obviously just quickly jump onto the online teaching method. And so some of the issues we faced were connectivity, basically, which means a lot of also the journalism students that I teach, they come from all over South Asia. It's called the Asian College of Journalism. And so we'd have students coming in from the SAARC zone, which meant we had students from Nepal, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and all these places don't really have great uh, internet. Or not very consistent, let me put it that way. And so sometimes, children would fade in, students would fade out. Some of them would say, I cannot come onto video mode. I cannot view anything because I'm on a little phone. I'm just listening to audio, things like that. And so we have that as one of our biggest issues. And with film students, of course, the fact was that they were not too happy about it. And physically, a lot of us faculty took a while to get used to. There's multitasking that is required of you because you have to keep track of students, chat box, and optimize screen viewing, things like that. Because film studies and film history required us to share a lot of clips, and some of our lectures won't make sense unless they can see the clips and listen to our um, analysis or deconstruction of those visuals. And so that was something that we were really struggling with. And we used Google Classroom very extensively, but for the classroom sessions, we were using Zoom. And of course, the biggest challenge was to keep the students' attention, engage them, and make it as interactive as possible. And so some of the strategies that I employed were to make it interesting and get them to, somehow try and capture the energy of face-to-face interaction. And also, one of the biggest challenges with the film students at the Film Academy was that they were not all following the same course. There were specializations in direction, screenwriting, and cinematography, editing, and sound. So I have 4 groups of students who are attending a film history class, but then I had to connect it up to each of their specializations. And so the breakout rooms were really very, very useful for that. But one of the things that I decided to do was to have an everyday aha moment game, which meant that at the midpoint of the session, I would say, okay, I want to hear what were the aha moments for you in this first half of the class. And often we would have 3-hour sessions. So it also was a helpful way to break the monotony and get them to then, the first 2 days, it was like, okay, I learned this, I learned that. But then once they realized that this was going to be connected with their internal assessments, and also that they would be rewarded with assignment deadline extensions or allowed to form groups that would then give me a collection of aha moments, and depending on how well they got everything that they needed to learn, they were given a lot of gifts that I would order online and send across to them, which were usually either films or a few tasty treats, especially if they lived in slightly remote areas and had no access to film and so on. The second thing that I did use very extensively were quizzes in the chat box, but they were timed quizzes, and they always had a reward at the end of it that was tied up either to their class assignments, their class essays, or to the final video project that they would have to do. And the third game that I brought in was what we call, maybe not very politically correct, honestly speaking, in today's day, but it's called dumb charades in India. And I'm assuming it's called mime or charades in the US. And what they would do was I would throw film names, film author names, or film genres at them, and they would have to quickly come up with a mime that would then become a game for the rest of the class to guess. And so this became something that they really enjoyed. And at the end of it, the end of the semester, they come up with performances that were filmed by some of them, that were enacted by others, and then they would present it as a group to me. So the first one was, of course, the aha moments. So interestingly, I'm also volunteering at um, in an NGO that works with Montessori training, the Playway method. And I was like, okay, why not Playway method for graduate students? Why only for KG kids? And so I kind of use some of those strategies. And just to give you a sense of what kind of value that had, it was about 25 points of 100 scale for them in their internal assessments. And one of the rewards that I would often give them were donuts and other small treats that they like through Dunzo. I don't know if you're aware of this app, but it's called Dunzo in India. And they pick up anything and deliver it anywhere. And so that was something that they really enjoyed. And just to give you a sense of some of the things that they wrote, this is what I call the Jaldi 5 reward, which is also tied to the Indian version of bingo, where the first 5 off the mark, the first 5 students would get something special at the end of the semester, which would be often an extension of the number of minutes that they can have for their film project, or the shifts that they can have. If others are allowed 2 call sheets, then these people were allowed 3 call sheets. So this would directly translate into something that would help them in their final projects when they do get back to campus for their practicals. And so this was just to give you an idea of some of the kinds of responses students would give. And they were all timed. And so it was like you had to do it within a minute. So the first 5 would get. The second was, of course, the quizzes. And I would have a class of 28 film students, and they were from all 4 streams. And so I had to time it and say, okay, 1 minute question, 1 minute online. And if I don't get it within a minute, they don't get marked on that particular question. And then 2 minutes for a longer question that required 2-3 answers, and 3 minutes for the 3 answers. So the chat box was obviously the only way I could do this. And I would quickly close the chat box and copy paste and say, that's it, your time's up. And so I found that worked really, really well. And just to give you, this was Indian history, Indian film history. So these were some of the answers we got. And then I would see them correcting and saying, I forgot the year, or, I got confused between the first film and the first talkie film and things like that. So in a way, it also helped to register moments from Indian film history for them, because these are really important for them to know where they're coming from and what they want to do in their final essays, which were all meant to be on Indian film history. The third game that I mentioned to you, I can show you a bit of a video of that. So I had a class of 18, and these were from all over South Asia. And so they would, we played, okay, I see a spelling error there. They would play, this game was based on filmmakers and film genres. And so I would give them in the chat box, in a private message to each student, I would give them the name of the film or the filmmaker or the genre, and they would then enact it, and the rest would try to guess. And every one of those filmmakers and film genres and film authors were part of the final essay that each of them had to submit, with extensive analyses of each of their works and each genre. So the presentation as such, I'm stopping over there, but I would like to share this video just to show you how much fun the students had while we were doing this activity. Let me just share and then play the video. I don't know why I'm not able to access it here. Give me a second. Yes, I should be able to access it now. So this was a class picture that we took at the end of the day, or the end of the class, or the end of the game, so that they would all hold a frame and then we would take. Okay, and so this was the game, and you can see that, let me try and show you how they acted it out. And it was quite a challenge with this young child. Because she was trying to mime something with a virtual background, and her hands would keep disappearing. And the rest of the class was struggling to guess, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to give you a sense of it, what they would be doing. And this was later also tied up. This was also later tied up with, I need to stop that. Give me a second. Yeah. And this was later tied up to a group performance that they had to do, where they went off into breakout rooms, and then they had to come back and present a scene from each of these films that they would reenact and film and then share with the rest of the class. And they were not very comfortable when I asked them if I could share those videos, and they were like, no, not really, we're not actors, and so on. So I haven't shared the videos of their final performance based assessments. But yeah, we had a lot of fun, as you can see from their faces, and they really enjoyed the entire process. And the feedback was really great for these two courses. And they were saying that they never realized that film history could be that much fun, and that film analysis, film studies would actually be so interesting, and that they could enjoy studying film history for one full semester. I mean, 2 full semesters. So we literally bombarded them with world history, world film history, Indian film history, and they were like, okay, now we have all the histories in our head colliding. But it was very useful in one way, because it helped them to map the entire globe with film history. And so some of them, in fact, came up with a very interesting thing that I taught them, because I was doing some coaching training, and I taught them this Japanese technique of introducing yourself, which is called the pecha kucha, where within 10 slides you got to introduce somebody or something. And they finally, in the final presentation, that's what some of them did. They actually presented about a filmmaker or a film genre using the pecha kucha technique. And I thought that really worked very, very well. Well, I think I'll stop there, and then we'll see where we can go with the rest of the question and answers. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us, Uma. I think it's really helpful for us to see what things were like for someone on the other side of the world.